All right, today we're going to be reading chapters 41 through 44. And there's a boy in the girls' bathroom. Today we're going to be writing to explain. So it says, imagine you were Jeff trying to teach Bradley about birthday parties. What would you be sure to explain and why? So what does Bradley needs to know? You know, he said he's only been to one birthday party and he was asked to leave because he sat on the cake because he got mad about not having a chair and musical chairs. So he's ready to try again. He has been invited. He is so nervous and he's so can't remember what are some of the manners that you would that you need to demonstrate or display at a party. So what could Jeff tell him? And why is that important? So that's what you're looking at for chapter 41 through 44. All right, let's go, Bradley. His mother said on Saturday morning as she entered his room, "We're off to a real barbershop." She said it as if a barbershop was the most wonderful place in the world. In the past, she had always cut Bradley's hair herself, but this time he had asked to go to a real barbershop. That was earlier in the week when they were out buying a birthday present for Colleen. "You make my head look like a chili bowl," he had complained. Now he sadly looked up at his mother and said, I don't want to get my hair cut." "You want to look nice for Colleen's birthday party tomorrow, don't you?" she asked. "You don't want to go looking like a punk rocker." "I'm not going to her birthday party," he snapped. "I hate her." Bradley's mother left him alone. He heard Carla's voice in his mind. "Saturday, I'm going to need someone to help me move all my things out of the office. I would appreciate it very much if you would come and help me." The knot in his stomach tightened. "No, I hate you," he said out loud. His father knocked, then came into his room. "Bradley, I think we need to talk," he said, man to man. Bradley stood up. "Why don't you tell me what's bothering you?" asked his father. "Maybe I can help." Bradley didn't want any help. "I am very sorry to hear that your counselor had been transferred to another school," said his father. "I know how much you liked her. At first, I didn't like the idea of you seeing a counselor, but—" "I have to get my hair cut," said Bradley. "Mom said so." He walked out of the room, leaving his father behind him. His mother drove him to the barber shop. Carla's voice spoke in his mind. "We could have lunch together. We could go to a restaurant." The knot pulled tighter. "Just the two of us." And tighter. "It'll be lots of fun," Carla said, "and it would be a great help to me." And tighter. "Maybe I'll see you on Saturday," said Carla. "I would like that very much." And tighter. "You're not Cinderella, and I'm not Prince Charming." And tighter. "I like you, Bradley. I can like you, can't I? You don't have to like me." The knot pulled so tight it broke. "Stop the car," he shouted. "I have to go back." The car swerved. "Don't ever do that again," exclaimed his mother. "We could have had an accident." "I don't believe in accidents." "I'm getting sick and tired of your nonsense, Bradley. What is your problem?" "I can't get my hair cut now. I have to go to school." "On Saturday?" "I'm supposed to see my counselor. She is waiting to see me. Call the school if you don't believe me." The car stopped in the parking lot in front of the barber shop. "We're here," his mother said sternly. "You're getting your hair cut now." He stepped out of the car and reluctantly followed his mother into the barber shop. It smelled oily, like hair and hair oil and stale bubble gum all mixed together. All around him, mirrors reflected mirrors. The place was ugly, and the mirrors reflected the ugliness, multiplying it 100 times back and forth. They seemed to reflect the awful smell, too. He couldn't believe he had asked his mother to take him to such a place. It was like some kind of horrible dungeon where kids went to be tortured. But worst of all, he had to wait his turn to be tortured. All the barber chairs were occupied. He sat on a torn red couch. "Do you want to read a comic book?" asked his mother. "No, thank you," he answered quietly. Finally, it was his turn. He climbed into a slippery, oily vinyl barber chair. The barber tied a shiny apron tightly around his neck, nearly choking him to death. The barber began by combing his hair. Bradley wondered why he had to comb it if he's going to cut it anyway. At last the barber picked up the scissors and began to cut, but he never cut off a big piece of hair all at once. Instead, he kept snipping little bits of hair off the same place of hair over and over again. The filmy mirror. He gritted his teeth and waited for it to be over. The barber put down the scissors, but then he picked up the comb and started combing again. "I knew he shouldn't have combed it before," Bradley thought. "Now he just has to do it again." The barber sprayed some kind of smelly junk on Bradley's head, combed his hair one last time, then unhooked the apron around Bradley's neck. Bradley quickly hopped off the chair before the barber could change his mind. But the barber wasn't through. He made Bradley stand still while he ran a small vacuum cleaner across his neck. When he finished, he offered Bradley a piece of bubble gum. "I hate gum," said Bradley. He never used to hate gum, but after smelling it in the barber shop, he never wanted another piece again. "You'll be the most handsome boy at Colleen's party," his mother said as they walked outside. "Can you drive me to school, please?" he asked. She nodded. 10 minutes later, he jumped out of the car and ran up the steps in front of the school and pulled on the double glass doors. They were locked. He pressed his face against the glass and looked aside. Miss Kemp, the janitor, was waxing the floors. He pounded on the door until she looked up. Miss Kemp scowled at him as she opened the door. "What do you want, Chalkers?" "I have to see Miss Davis," he said. "Miss Davis is gone." He ducked under her arm, which held open the door, and ran into the building. "Chalkers!" she shouted after him. "I'll call the police!" He opened the door to Carla's office and stepped inside. Except for the round table and chairs, the room was empty. But in his mind, he heard Carla say, "Hello, Bradley. It's a pleasure to see you today. I appreciate your coming to see me." Tears rolled down his face. He noticed a large manila envelope lying on the table. He picked it up. Bradley Chalkers was written across it in big letters. Under that, in smaller letters, was the following: Miss Ebel's class, room 12, good friend, honest, thoughtful, caring, polite, whom I will never forget, and who I hope someday will forgive me. Last seat, last row. "There you are," said Miss Kemp as she came in after him. "If you don't get out of here right now, I'm going to call the police. Look," he exclaimed, holding up the envelope. "She left this for me. See? We were friends, Carla and me. We were best friends." "You have 10 seconds to leave this building," said Miss Kemp. 1, 2. He took the envelope and left. He opened it on the playground next to the monkey bars. Inside was the book, My Parents Didn't Steal an Elephant, by Uriah C. Lasso, and a letter. "Dear Bradley, this book, it was a present from me to you. It was a gift from the heart, and that kind of gift, for better or for worse, can never be returned. I'm sorry for hurting you. I didn't mean to. If it makes you feel any better, you hurt me too. When you didn't come see me Friday or Saturday, I kept hoping I would see your happy face walk through the door. I hope you didn't mind that I gave your book report to Miss Ebel. It was just too good to throw away. You can do such wonderful work. Now, if only you can learn how to not rip it up. I hope you went to Colleen's birthday party. If you did, I'm sure you enjoyed it. If you didn't go, that's all right too. There will be lots of other parties. You are a very likable person. You'll always be very special to me. It was always a pleasure to see you. I appreciated your coming to see me. Thank you for sharing so much with me. I love you, Carla." Bradley's father was leaning on his cane on the front stoop when Bradley came walking home. "I want to talk to you, Bradley," he said sternly. Bradley ran to him and hugged him, nearly knocking him over. Chapter 42. Bradley tried writing a letter to Carla. His father had suggested it. He crumpled up a piece of paper and threw it in his waste paper basket. He didn't know what to say to her. The words he wanted hadn't been invented yet. Ronnie hopped along, singing "Dooby-Dooby-Doo." The other animals were taking another vote. "We took another vote," the lion told Ronnie. "We like you the best." "I like all of you the best, too," said Ronnie. Bartholomew walked up to her. "I love you, Ronnie," he said. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," said Ronnie. "And I saved you from the quicksand, too," said Bartholomew, "so you didn't die." "That's good," said Ronnie. "I'm very glad to hear that." 43. Colleen, wearing a new red dress, anxiously waited for her guests to arrive. Except for Lori and Melinda, she hadn't told anybody that there would be boys at her party. The doorbell rang. Her heart jumped. She hoped it would be Jeff and also hoped it wouldn't be. She composed herself and opened the door. It was Judy and Betty. They each gave her a present. "Oh, what is it?" Colleen asked as she took each gift. But of course they didn't tell her. "Who else is coming?" asked Judy, as the 3 girls sat and waited in the living room. Colleen counted on her fingers, naming her guests. "Well, there's you two, and Lori, and Melinda, Karen, Amy, and Dina." She paused, and then said the last 2 names very quickly. and Jeffrey and Bradley. Bradley? Questioned Betty. Bradley Chalkers? Oh, no! Judy looked like she was about to faint. You didn't say there was going to be boys at your party, said Betty. Didn't I? Colleen asked innocently. I thought I did. I don't think I'm allowed to go to a boy and girl party, said Judy. Okay, but you already gave me my present, said Colleen. They decided to stay. When the bell rang again, all three girls screamed, but it was only Amy and Dina. Amy and Dina were dressed exactly alike, right down to their shoes and socks. They were best friends, and their parents often took them shopping together. They always bought the same clothes. Then before a party, or even just before school sometimes, they would call each other up and decide what to wear. Today, it was a blue dress with white and yellow flowery things. Colleen invited boys, Betty told them. Bradley Chalker, said Judy. Amy and Dina looked at each other in horror. Colleen took their presents from them before they would change their minds. Both presents were wrapped in the same purple-green paper. Karen was the next to arrive. Colleen invited boys, everyone said to her as she stood in the doorway. Her mouth dropped open. Bradley Chalker, said Betty, and the new kid, said Amy, Jeff Fishfood. Karen was very shy and quiet. If there were going to be boys at the party, she might not say one word all day. The doorbell rang. Everybody, except Karen, screamed. She held a pillow in front of her face. It was Lori and Melinda. Colleen invited boys, everyone greeted them. Jeff Fishnose and Bradley Chalkers, said Dina. So we already knew that, Lori said, as if it were no big deal to her. Well, nobody else did, said Judy. The 8 girls waited. They talked and laughed about how much Colleen would like her presents. They asked her what there would be to eat and what games they would play. The one thing they didn't talk about was boys, though it was the only thing on each of their minds. When Colleen told Dina there would be a 3-legged race, the room turned very quiet. Each girl wondered if she would have to run it with a boy. Colleen planned to run the 3-legged race with Jeff. It didn't occur to her that if she was partners with Jeff, another girl would have to be partners with Bradley. It was starting to get late. A new worry slowly crept into each girl's head. What if the boys didn't show up? It suddenly seemed that the party wouldn't be any fun at all without boys. Where were they? Colleen's mother walked into the living room and counted heads. 8, she said aloud. Who's missing? Nobody answered. Oh, the boys, said Colleen's mother. Well, we can't wait too much longer. Colleen looked like she was about to cry. Where were they? Chapter 44. The doorbell rang at Bradley's house. Bradley, wearing a cone-shaped party hat, ran to the front door and flung it open. He had a wild look in his eyes. Hi, said Jeff, holding Colleen's present under his arm. You ready? He was wearing old, comfortable clothes. His blue jeans had a small hole above the knee. It's wrapped, Bradley exclaimed, with a bow. What? Uttered Jeff. Bradley ran back to his parents' room. It's got to be wrapped, he told his mother, with a bow. She cut off a piece of tape and smiled at her son. I'm wrapping it now. Okay, good. He returned to the front door. My mother's wrapping it now, he told Jeff. He had been running around the house that way all morning as he desperately tried to get ready for the birthday party. He already changed his clothes 6 times. He didn't know what he was supposed to wear. He didn't know what he was supposed to do. He didn't know what he didn't know. Claudia had given him the party hat to wear. She told him he was not allowed to take it off. Claudia. They wrapped my present at the store when I got it, Jeff said. Bradley hardly heard him. Are you supposed to wear torn pants, he asked. What? He ran into the kitchen. He took a sharp knife from the drawer next to the sink and cut a hole in his pants, just above the knee. When he returned to the front door, Jeff was standing inside the house. Claudia was with him. Is my hat on straight? Bradley asked his sister. She looked him over. It's hard to tell, she explained, because your head's crooked. Miss Chalkers came down the hall, holding Colleen's present in front of her. See, all wrapped, she said. Hello, you must be Jeff. I'm Bradley's mother. Hello, Miss Chalkers, said Jeff. It doesn't have a bow, Bradley shouted. Oh, I couldn't find any ribbons, said his mother. He stared at her in disbelief. It needs a bow, he wailed. He turned to Jeff. Doesn't it need a bow? No. Oh, okay, he said happily. He took the present from his mother. She kissed him and told him to have fun. He and Jeff started out the door. "Oh, Bradley," said his mother, "you ripped your pants." "I know." He closed the door. They headed up the sidewalk toward Colleen's. She lived 2 blocks away. "Do you want my bow?" Jeff asked. "I can take it off." Bradley nervously shook his head. "Are you all right?" Jeff asked. Said Bradley. He had tried to say, "I'm okay," but his mouth didn't work. "You're acting kind of strange," said Jeff, "even for you, I mean." Bradley sighed and stopped walking. "What's the matter?" Jeff asked. Bradley trembled. He felt the same way as when he first tried to turn in his homework. "I don't know what to do at a birthday party," he said, shivering. Jeff laughed. Bradley sat down on the curb. "I haven't been to one in 3 years." Jeff looked impatiently up the street and then sat down next to his best friend. "There's nothing to worry about," he said assuringly. "Birthday parties are fun." "How many birthday parties have you been to?" Bradley asked. Jeff shrugged. "A lot." "What do you want to know?" "Everything." "Okay," said Jeff. "First, take off that dumb hat." "Okay." While the 8 girls anxiously waited, Jeff patiently trying to teach Bradley everything he knew about birthday parties.